Hi, and welcome to this podcast episode, Unlocking the Data Vault with me, Dan Lindstedt, Cindy Meyerson, and we have the pleasure of having Sanjay Pandey with us today as well. We're going to announce the 2024 WWDVC themes, so the Worldwide Conference for Data Vault. So save the dates. We're only 7 months away from the annual Worldwide Data Vault Consortium, and we're back in beautiful Stowe, Vermont, beginning April 28th, 2024. We're going to head back to the Snowflake Mountain Resort and Spa. The DVA team is working hard behind the scenes and preparing yet another memorable Data Vault conference for everybody, exclusively hosted by myself and the Data Vault Alliance team. You want to get on the website and get your room reservation link and direct through the hotel. And if you do it directly through the reservation link on the website, then the daily resort fee of around $25 is actually waived for our conference attendees. So that's pretty nice. The World Class Spa will also offer you guys a discount for conference attendees and their significant others or spouses that attend. And if you're interested in the spa services during the conference, definitely book early or call them ahead of time. Just let them know that you're a conference attendee, and they should give you their discount. As always, there are perks in addition for those who attend the conference that we only give away in person on a first-come, first-served basis. And we're really excited to announce the WWDVC 2024 themes. So the first theme that we're going to be talking about here is Data Fabric and Innovating at the Semantic Layer. And my good friend and business partner Sanjay has some ideas around what we're going to be discussing at the conference. Hey, Sanjay, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, Dan, I mean, that's an exciting theme to see, actually. Considering the concept of data fabric, which has come quite a long way now, right? Today we have tooling. It can provide you inputs that seamlessly integrate and manage and access data from all these diverse sources across the enterprise. And what has happened is we have all this multi-structured data has become these sets with multi-structured data sets has not only become the norm, but we store that inside the data vault as well nowadays. We have the capability to store that. What the data fabric enables us to do is provide a far easier access layer for absorption of the data sets into the enterprise data memory archive layer. I like to call the data warehouse that. Which includes the archival of the sets. This can actually help with a few things, right? So it helps you simplify and standardize the data ingest process, especially if you have that ingest coming from multiple different sets that have different structures or different formats, if you will. And it enables a better, from a consumption point of view, it enables a better integrated view of the data across the enterprise. So, I mean, if you think about it, it fits on really on both sides. And what that enables you to do is be more responsible. Sorry, not responsible. You should be responsible. Be more responsive is what I wanted to say to address business needs, because speed is the need of the hour for the most part these days. And it can work as a layer after a multi-structured set, and or when you have a distributed data vault solution, going back to that, it can provide an interface layer that actually really helps out. Dan, what do you think of that?
Yeah, absolutely. Add to this the innovations that are happening at the semantic layer, which I've been talking about for years around taxonomies and ontologies, which essentially translates a business conceptual model or interface into an accessible set of data. And you got a winner. Of course, how do you get winners, right? Well, you got to do the work, but you've got to enable a consistent business vocabulary across the organization. That's something we've been striving for along the lines of data quality and data management for years. Creating a business access layer from the data vault areas while not compromising on the ingest, integration, and archival capabilities, I think, as well, including security, which is a big one. Providing a more robust foundation for managing self-service analytics, which we like to call managed self-service BI, including a data and pattern discovery across the enterprise. That's really important. And the Data Vault 2.0 solution is already the most complete system for building out any analytics solution, which works across people, process, and technology. Don't forget the people. They're always a part of this. Incorporating data fabric in the semantic layer can enhance it even more while continuing to leverage its robustness and completeness, making your data strategy even more comprehensive and sustainable. And of course, we've got Cindy here to talk about the next theme for our conference. Cindy, what's coming up?
Well, it's kind of interesting as guys were talking about Fabric and semantics and things like that. I got a bit distracted because I wanted to make a note here. These things, Fabric, semantics, data mesh, they're all complementary concepts. And I think that's something that we want to bring out in the conference. Our second theme is data mesh and the 5 W's: who, what, when, where, and why. So data mesh, I talked about this last year. We've had several presentations over the last couple of conferences, actually, by clients that are implementing it. But data mesh is a concept, and it's sort of a generally accepted concept, but it lacks a set of, let me just say, exacting steps, right? So there are only a bunch of guidelines, really, definitions, do's and don'ts. And of course, as I pointed out last year, an entirely new lexicon of terms, which our industry is notorious for. So there are no really practical suggestions or implementation standards, templates, or even a methodology. At best, mesh is a framework. It's really a concept, a theory that somehow became popular, and it leaves all of the implementation details to you, the customer. And so curiously, a lot of the data mesh concepts that have come out, the implementation or the execution of those concepts have actually come out on top of data vaults that have been implemented. And so I like to think that the data vault is this sort of stable foundation upon which the concept of data mesh can be realized. It's what I would consider the singular H, the how, which undergirds all of the 5 W's. So those are sort of that's my take on this. Dan, I'm sure you have something you would love to add to this.
So, yeah, I will. First, I want to apologize to everybody who heard my cell phone go off. First time we're adding video to the podcast, and I should have put my cell phone on Do Not Disturb. So I apologize to listeners out there. In fact, one of the things about the 5 hows and data mesh, we know of a large company that decided as an organization to embrace the mesh concepts alongside a data vault. And they paired them well together and actually built and are still building. They realized that they could lean on Data Vault 2.0 to implement the data mesh, which is really cool. Since then, using Data Vault 2.0 solution with data mesh has become far more common because a lot of people are hearing their story, and companies are seeing and experiencing successes with this strategy. Sanjay, do you have any thoughts on how this all works?
I'm actually quite excited. I love the 5 W's are there: who, what, when, where, and why, and there's no how, right, related to the data mesh. And I mean, it's been a theme, I think, over the past 2 or 3 years, and last year was probably, it's getting more and more popular, and we have people, both on stage and in the audience that are using Data Vault to implement data mesh. So I mean, I honestly think it's not to be missed because it is becoming popular as a concept. Looking at what analogies we have, how the data vault fits in and how it helps from an implementation perspective. And what I'm really excited about is this is, stuff that we have both from the stage, from the presentations and people in the audience, right? So that's a unique thing about our conference anyway, where people get together and talk about these things. I think it's truly a unique experience, right? I mean, it kind of, I'm really quite excited, which brings me to the next theme. And that is the third theme that we're going to talk about, which is a part of the conference theming, is generative AI. And that's kind of a disruptive new thing. Its potential and downside, both. So we can think about, machine learning for dynamic data warehousing, for discovering taxonomies and ontologies, for doing dynamic linking, and there's exploratory links and there's discovery links and all sorts of other things. And of course, AI-driven business metrics, and then there's a lot more, right? So this has been the biggest disruptor, as we all know, with technologies like ChatGPT becoming all the rage. Now, why it became so popular? Because it actually used a different approach to training a machine compared to how it was done in the older way. And it has provided an extremely robust and really cool natural language interface, right? And it's really no wonder that tool vendors are scampering to incorporate generative AI into their platforms. But one of the issues, right, with generative AI is it's dependent on things, and of course, it has applications far beyond silly things like doing your kids' homework. It can write essays and stuff, and we've heard about that. But now it's being tied into everything, from data modeling tools to give you suggestions all the way to data integration. Generative AI actually taking the data set and providing you an integration flow. It's used as a method for providing suggestions, but generative AI is dependent on source data. So two things: source data for learning and the right prompts to answer the questions with the correct relevance. And you get those two wrong, and you're in for a surprise, a nasty one. So there are certain aspects that can accelerate a build. Providing an AI tool with poor data or bad data quality, it's an accelerator, but it's also going to increase your problems exponentially if you don't actually look at, have that data in the right format, right? The problem we have with the current marketing and all the hype around AI, they've taken AI and just, made it as it's going to be a solution for everything. It continues to push technology. The problem is the hype continues to push technology as an end-to-end solution, when reality is technology is assistive tooling at best. It's assistive. It helps us, and we should always look at technology as assistive. At worst, so that at best it's assistive. At worst, you ignore the basic best practices, then you can end up with more problems than solutions. And Dan, we've seen this again and again and again with technology, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I hear you. And technology can optimize the work via automation and generation, but it can't replace humans. And as you said, it pays no attention to recommended best practices or recommended practices to follow, or particular things. It doesn't do what it isn't taught to do, right? And it, as any good AI engine knows, or as any person knows about AI, it will wobble until it learns and then stabilizes, right? So it'll hit the extreme of badness, and then it'll go be corrected and come back, and then hit the other extreme of outside the boundaries and then come back. And so it does this sort of sine wave, eventually hopefully stabilizing and producing good answers. But it can't replace humans, and it needs a human to help it get there. It's important and imperative to leverage any AI in the right way, provide the increased output without neglecting the necessity of a human factor to appropriately direct and configure your tools, as I just talked about. So this is where our sessions at the conference come in. Some of the sessions that we're going to have in this theme will be explanatory or self-explanatory, with thought leaders speaking on how to leverage generative AI for concepts such as dynamic data warehousing, which I've brought to the conference a couple of years ago, a couple of years in a row. But there are also practical applications such as discoveries of taxonomies and ontologies that we're working on, and a whole host of other people are working on as well. And it's already being used for that purpose. So we're going to discuss that too. There are also potential exploratory applications such as dynamic linking, AI-driven business metrics, extracted from data sets automatically. And if it works on a solid foundation, its potential is actually multiplied, right? So data quality is this number one problem in the industry and has been for years, but of course we've sort of ignored it because we didn't want to deal with it. But data quality can lead to AI making the wrong decisions, and it can be part of, if you improve quality, it can be part of a solid foundation. Otherwise it can be a detriment, right? So again, even as something as flashy and disruptive as generative AI is dependent on the quality and the quantity, as well as the completeness of the input data. And it's not just the data, it's the metadata. So while Data Vault pioneered automation of the analytics space, generative AI has the potential to take this to the next level and accelerate the deliveries of your artifacts within the DV2 solution. So DV2 is naturally one of the best ways to leverage these new tools and technologies and ideas while continuing to build long-term optimal solutions. Cindy, what do you think about all this?
Well, it's interesting you talk about some of the issues around AI, and I always go back and remember the fact that it is AI is fragile, and so I'll just put it that way. And we've talked about that on a number of levels, but the idea of combining generative AI and data vault principles, to me is like putting this exploratory technology sort of on steroids. And there are risks with that, right? So we need to be cognizant of those things. And I think those are also areas in this theme that we'll be talking about, our speakers will be talking about, and a lot of discussion, I'm sure, at the conference around this coming up. So we'll consider all of this and more in the sessions that are introduced in this area in the WWDVC 2024 platform. So Dan, I think we have one last theme to address here, so take it away.
Absolutely, and thank you for that. So the fourth theme is backed by popular demand. You guys know it and love it by the term business track. It's the Executive's Guide to Data Quality and Digital Transformation Leadership. Oh boy, that's a mouthful. Catalogs and business glossaries, taxonomies and ontologies, AI, ML, all of that, including enriching, enhancing, and enabling faster automation, all from a business viewpoint. And last year was such a success. We had business leaders, we had directors, we had C-levels, we had management team. They all spoke about the business impact of doing it right and how they manage their teams to get things done right. So this is what's coming. We've got a few more business information sessions, which is really cool. Last year was our first with a dedicated business track that was hugely well received, and we've decided to do it again. It's a known reality that generally your business executive doesn't really care what you use or how you do it, provided that it works and it's on time and in budget, right? And of course, we like to add the fact that the business users ultimately care how often you need to re-engineer your solution. And it's no wonder that the Data Vault 2 solution is becoming their favorite, owing to its well thought out design across people, process, and technology. So Cindy, you've got some interesting ideas around this. So why don't you enlighten us?
Yeah, well, so first of all, I think, and I hope we get into this, one of the things about our conference is we always talk about people bringing, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We want your true life stories here. And I think that's, it has bode very well with our audience. We don't, put a liquor or a lacquer. I would like a liquor. No, we don't put a lacquer over, the reality of implementing these large scale systems. But something that hasn't been addressed that I think this theme is going to be touching on, I hope, is this idea of digital transformation leadership. And I don't know how many people realize between 70 and 80% of all digital transformation programs fail. And so we are hoping that we will hear some of the failures and perhaps the recoups on those. But this track is going to be presented by the business executives themselves. And the idea here is to help them, articulate, I will say, their understanding of the business side of the organization, how they think, so that before you sort of get into requesting funding for your programs and your projects, you know what your customer, your business is looking for and how to present it to them in their language. The language of the business, the vernacular of the business is critical. So while it's called the executive track, I strongly encourage all practitioners to attend this part of the event for two reasons. And I'm going to cover the first, and Dan, I'm going to ask you to take the second. But the first reason is because the Data Vault 2 solution, and I say this all the time in my classes, was, is, and always will be about the business. So understanding data catalogs, business glossaries, taxonomies, ontologies, what the business is looking for in terms of, new tech, perhaps new solutions and the concepts, all of that is paramount, and being able to speak to them in their own language about that is critical. The other reason, Dan, is I would like you to pick up, if you don't mind, and talk about the second reason we do this.
Absolutely. While machines provide a certain level of mechanized and artificial intelligence, the analytics teams, i.e. the people, we're back to the people again, provide business intelligence and insights on top of all the stuff that they get to make yourself truly invaluable to the organization. So this is what this track is about, is learning how to talk to the business, learning what the business wants to do and how to do it, and all of those things. So you may be asking yourself why an executive invests in certain tools, technologies, methodologies, and solutions in this disruptive period. And those answers are coming in this track. So don't miss this session to gain insights and the answers to these questions. So Sanjay, would you wrap it up for us?
Yeah, love to. I mean, I love that last thing, right? I mean, going from a cost center to a profit center should always be the aim of analytics teams, like you always say, Dan, right? Like that makes it all worthwhile doing all this stuff, right? So to everybody listening, thank you for listening. Stay tuned to our social media channels, to our email, to keep up with the latest on any new speakers who get added, sponsors, registrations. Watch for notifications. If you're planning to speak, let us know. There'll be a process for that. We would love to get your speaking abstract. There's a process. If you've already spoken before, you know the process. Otherwise, it'll be there on the site. For anybody looking to sponsor, we love our sponsors. Thank you for sponsoring in the past. Again, we'll be in touch, and stay tuned. And sign up for the DVA Digest, the digital newsletter that's sent right to your inbox with the latest on the Data Vault and WWDVC. This is a monthly digest. And the description actually to sign up is in the link. So we shall hear from, you shall hear from us soon. So thanks, everyone. Please sign up.
Awesome. Today. I'm Dan Lindstedt. Thank you for watching and listening to this podcast. On behalf of our co-hosts, Cindy Meyerson and Sanjay Pandey, have a great week.